The team from Expedition Bigfoot was experiencing one of their most intense moments. Strange heat signatures and mysterious creatures were getting closer to them. Their goal was clear: to prove that Bigfoot, the elusive giant, was not just a myth. But what started as a carefully planned mission around the hidden lake quickly turned into a terrifying encounter that left the team questioning their safety and the very nature of what they were up against. It all began as Ronnie and Maria set out to investigate the mysterious hidden mountain lake, a location that the team believed could serve as the primary water source for any unknown creatures lurking nearby. This remote area, dense with thick forests and untouched by humans for years, seemed like the perfect spot for a creature like Bigfoot to hide. The mission was simple. The team would split up, cover both the north and south sides of the lake, and try to drive any creatures toward the water, where they could observe them more clearly. Maria and Ronnie, both equipped with advanced thermal imaging technology, ventured into the dense forest. Their senses heightened as they moved slowly and carefully through the thick undergrowth. Maria was focused on the broken branches and signs of recent disturbances, evidence that something large had passed through recently. Despite the darkness, she kept her eyes peeled, hoping to spot anything that might lead them to their target. On the other side of the forest, Ronnie faced similar challenges. The path was littered with debris, and every step he took seemed to make a loud crunch that echoed through the quiet woods. With visibility at an all-time low, both Ronnie and Maria knew they had to rely on their thermal imaging and instincts to survive the night. Meanwhile, Russell, who was overseeing the entire operation from a safer vantage point, used an iPad connected to a drone to monitor the area for any unusual heat signatures. As Maria and Ronnie moved closer to the lake, Russell kept a close watch on their movements, prepared to alert them to any danger. The first sign of trouble came when Maria, making her way through the dark forest, heard a loud, unsettling noise. It was as if something massive was moving toward her, and she could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on her. She quickly radioed Russell and Ronnie, informing them of the strange sounds she had heard. But it wasn't just the noise that caught her off guard. As she stood still, leaves began to fall around her despite there being no wind. This eerie occurrence left her confused and uneasy. At the same time, Ronnie was experiencing his own moment of dread. He heard rustling in the woods near him, something that seemed to be moving toward the water. Concerned for his safety, he radioed Russell, asking if anything unusual had shown up on the thermal cameras.
Sounds.
Russ, I'm hearing something to my left.
A thick forest canopy blocked the drone's view, and Russell couldn't see either of them clearly. This left the team in a precarious situation. They were deep in the forest, surrounded by something unknown, and they couldn't rely on their technology for help. Maria, feeling the tension building, decided to investigate further. She used her thermal binoculars to scan the forest, but couldn't see anything on her thermal imaging. Then, in the distance, she saw something. A black silhouette walking past, moving silently through the woods. Fear and excitement washed over her in equal measure.
Wait, are you seeing movement or are you just hearing?
No. I see movement, but I'm not picking up a heat signature.
Could this be the moment they had been waiting for? Was Bigfoot finally within reach? She quickly grabbed her radio and called Russell, explaining that she saw a shadowy figure moving in the distance. It was just a dark silhouette, nothing more. What really confused her was that, just like Ronnie, she couldn't pick up any heat signatures on her equipment. Normally, any living thing would give off some heat, but this one didn't. It was as if the figure didn't have a body temperature at all, making her wonder if they were dealing with something unnatural or unlike anything they'd encountered before. Russell, feeling more and more worried about his teammates, quickly told both Maria and Ronnie to step back from the lake. He couldn't let them stay so close, especially when they had no clue what they were up against. The team had faced danger before, but this time, it felt different, like something was watching them, ready to strike. As Ronnie started to move away from the edge of the water, the noises from the forest became louder and more unsettling. He could hear something moving in the distance, like it was on a mission. The steady, rhythmic sound made it clear this wasn't just some random animal passing by. It was something else, something with purpose. The movement felt deliberate, as if it were tracking him. Russell, now certain that they were being followed, urged Ronnie to retreat further, giving himself more distance from the potential threat. Maria, still reeling from the shock of what she had just witnessed, caught sight of something even more terrifying. Her thermal imaging scanner suddenly picked up massive heat signatures, far bigger than anything she had ever seen before. Her pulse quickened as she tried to process what she was looking at.
It's huge. And now there's another one to the left. There's multiple creatures walking.
But it wasn't just one creature. There were 4 of them, moving slowly and cautiously through the trees, creeping about 100 yards from where she stood. The realization struck her hard that they weren't just being watched, but they were completely surrounded by these unknowns. She radioed Russell immediately, describing the large heat signatures and expressing her concern that there could be more than one creature in the area. This discovery was both thrilling and terrifying. On one hand, it suggested they were on the verge of something extraordinary, a find that could change everything they knew about Bigfoot. On the other hand, it raised the stakes to a dangerous level. They weren't just dealing with one creature, but they might be dealing with an entire population. But then, something even stranger happened. 2 of the heat signatures disappeared from Maria's view. She scanned the area again, but they were gone. This sudden disappearance sent a chill through her. It felt deliberate, as if these creatures knew they were being watched and had purposely moved out of sight. This raised more unsettling questions. Were these creatures intelligent? Did they know exactly what they were doing? And worse, were they planning something? The more Maria thought about it, the more the situation felt like a game of cat and mouse, and she wasn't sure which side they were on. Russell, sensing the danger Maria was in, radioed Ronnie and instructed him to head toward Maria's location. He didn't want her to be alone, especially with the possibility that these creatures were coordinating their movements. Ronnie confirmed that he was on his way, but it would take time to reach her, as he was still on the other side of the lake. As Maria waited for Ronnie, the noises in the woods grew louder. Something was approaching, and it was getting closer by the second. She called out for Ronnie, hoping that he was the source of the noise, but his response chilled her to the bone. He was still too far away. Whatever was making that sound wasn't him. It was something else, something large, and it was closing in. With no time to waste, Maria radioed Russell, asking for guidance. Should she run? Should she stay put? Russell, unable to see her from the drone, told her to slowly back away from her current position and retreat to the tree line. He knew they were in over their heads, and the best course of action was to regroup and get to safety. As Maria and the cameraman moved cautiously through the woods, the noises continued to follow them. It was as if the creatures were playing a game, staying just out of sight but close enough to keep them on edge. Every snap of a branch, every rustle of leaves, sent a wave of fear through the group. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Ronnie arrived at Maria's location. The 2 of them were relieved to be reunited, knowing that there was safety in numbers. But the danger was far from over. They both knew that whatever was out there was still watching them, tracking their every move. The tension was palpable as they made their way back to the lake's edge, carefully retracing their steps. Neither of them spoke much, aware that any sudden noise could draw unwanted attention. The only sounds were the occasional crack of a branch underfoot and the soft hum of their equipment. As they reached the safety of the tree line, they quickly radioed Russell to let him know they had regrouped. Hearing their voices, Russell felt a wave of relief wash over him. His teammates were safe, but he urged them to stay put while he continued scanning the area from above, just in case. Despite being back together, an uneasy feeling still hung in the air. They had just come face to face with something they couldn't explain, something mysterious and unknown. And even though they had made it through the encounter, none of them could shake the sense that whatever they had seen wasn't done with them yet. Back at base camp, the entire team gathered to go over the footage and discuss what had happened. The strange heat signatures, the eerie noises, and the shadowy figures they saw were unlike anything they had ever come across. It all pointed towards something bigger, maybe even a groundbreaking discovery. As they reviewed everything, one thing was clear. Their experience in the forest had only deepened the mystery, and the answers they sought still felt just out of reach. But the question remained, What exactly had they encountered? Was it Bigfoot, or was it something else entirely? The journey was far from over. As the team prepared for their next expedition, they couldn't help but wonder what new dangers awaited them in the dark, uncharted forests of the Pacific Northwest. One thing was clear: whatever they were chasing, it was watching them too.